Caroline and IK had a relationship that many admired, despite the challenges they faced. IK wasn't wealthy, but his love for Caroline was deep and unwavering. He did everything he could to make her happy, even though his finances were limited. Every time they went out for a meal or shared a simple evening at home, Caroline felt lucky to have such a caring partner. IK's love wasn't measured by material things. Instead, it was in the little gestures, the thoughtful messages, the long talks, and the warmth he brought into her life. Caroline knew that IK was doing his best, and at the beginning, that was enough for her. But what Caroline didn't know was that IK had been working on an ambitious online project, something he believed would change both their lives for the better. He hadn't told her because he wanted it to be a surprise. For months, he worked late into the night, balancing his job and the project, determined to make it succeed. Things took a different turn when Caroline's friends began to influence her. They were women who believed that love should be measured by material gifts and financial status. Caroline admired them, but their words slowly poisoned her thoughts about her relationship. "Why are you settling for less?" they would say. "You deserve a man who can take care of you properly, who can buy you nice things, take you on vacations, and spoil you." At first, Caroline tried to dismiss their comments. She knew IK was doing the best he could, and his love meant more to her than money. But the more she heard them, the more she started to doubt. Soon, her friends began flaunting the expensive gifts they received from their own boyfriends, comparing their lives to hers. Caroline felt pressured. She felt embarrassed when they mocked IK for not being able to provide the same luxuries. Slowly, their influence began to change her perception of what mattered in her relationship. Caroline, once content with the simplicity of her love with IK, began to feel restless. She started to question whether IK was really trying hard enough, even though she knew deep down how much he was working. The seed of doubt planted by her friends began to grow. She found herself comparing him to other men who seemed to have it all together, financially stable, able to give their girlfriends whatever they wanted. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted more from IK. She began to make demands, asking him to take her to expensive places or buy her gifts she knew he couldn't afford. She felt guilty at first, but her friend's words kept ringing in her ears. IK, who loved her deeply, tried his best to meet her growing expectations, but he couldn't always keep up. Caroline's dissatisfaction grew, and she began to question his efforts, pushing him away with her new expectations. Their once happy relationship became strained. Every time they had an argument, it ended with Caroline belittling IK, telling him he wasn't doing enough. She would compare him to other men, making him feel less of a man. "Look at my friends' boyfriends," she'd say, her voice laced with frustration. "Why can't you be more like them? Why can't you give me the things they get?" IK, though deeply hurt by her words, always forgave her. He believed that things would eventually get better, that Caroline would remember the love they once shared. But the more she pushed, the more his heart broke. Still, IK kept his project a secret, holding on to the hope that one day, when it succeeded, Caroline would see that he had been working towards something all along. He prayed for patience, for a breakthrough that would not only improve his life but also prove to Caroline that his love and effort were genuine. Then one day, Caroline disappeared. She didn't say a word to IK, she simply left. IK was devastated. He called her countless times, sent her messages, and even went looking for her at places she usually visited. But there was no response, no sign of her anywhere. It was as though she had vanished from his life without a trace. He couldn't understand why she would leave without saying anything. Had she given up on him completely? Had their love meant so little to her that she would just walk away without a word? Kay was heartbroken, confused, and lost. Every day he hoped she would return, that she would realize the mistake she made and come back to him. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and still, there was no sign of Caroline. She had left him, and though they hadn't officially broken up, it felt as though she had already made her decision. Caroline, on the other hand, had decided that she was done waiting. She was tired of being the girl with a struggling boyfriend, tired of hearing her friends mock her for being with someone who couldn't provide the life they thought she deserved. To them, IK was nothing but a failure, and their words slowly poisoned Caroline's mind. She convinced herself that she could do better, that she deserved someone who had already made it, someone who could give her the luxuries she craved. So, she left. She didn't even say goodbye to IK because, in her mind, she was moving on to a better life. But as the months passed, she realized that the new life she sought didn't come as easily as she had imagined. While she was struggling to find happiness elsewhere, IK poured all his energy into his online project. He worked day and night, and finally, his efforts paid off when he secured a major deal. News of IK's success spread like wildfire. Caroline first heard about it from a mutual friend. At first, she didn't believe it. How could the man she had left behind suddenly become wealthy? But the more she heard, the more it became clear, IK had transformed his life completely. He had gone from being a struggling man to someone who had signed a major deal with a well-known organization, making him a wealthy man almost overnight. As she listened to the stories, regret began to gnaw at Caroline. She remembered all the times IK had tried for her, all the little things he had done to show her he cared. She remembered the love they shared, the bond that had once been so strong. She realized that she had thrown it all away because she was impatient, because she let her friends convince her that material things were more important than love. The weight of her mistake settled heavily on her heart. Caroline knew she had to make things right, so she swallowed her pride and decided to go back to IK. She rehearsed her apology over and over, trying to find the right words to express how sorry she was for leaving him. When she arrived at his doorstep, her heart was racing. She knocked, and when IK opened the door, she burst into tears. IK, I was wrong, she cried. I shouldn't have listened to them. I should have stayed by your side. Please, forgive me. I still love you, and I want us to go back to how things used to be. Caroline's voice was filled with desperation. She couldn't believe she had let him go, and now, all she wanted was to fix her mistake. She hoped that IK would still love her the way he once did, that he would see how sorry she was and give her another chance to make things right. But IK wasn't the same man Caroline had left behind. He had grown, emotionally, mentally, and financially. Though seeing Caroline again stirred old feelings, he couldn't ignore the pain she had caused him. He looked at her, the woman he had once loved so deeply, and felt a mix of sadness and resolve. Caroline, he began, his voice steady, it's too late. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes, but IK continued. I loved you, and I did everything I could for you when I had nothing. But when I needed you the most, you left. You let your friends dictate our relationship, and you gave up on me when all I asked for was patience. Caroline's heart sank. She had hoped he would forgive her, but his words cut through her. He was right. She had walked away when times were tough, and now, it was too late to fix what had been broken. Caroline's tears flowed freely now as she tried to explain herself. IK, I'm sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know things would turn out this way. I thought I was doing the right thing. But IK's expression didn't soften. He had spent months alone, healing from the hurt she had caused, and though he still cared for her, he couldn't bring himself to go back to the way things were. If you had stayed, IK said softly, if you had believed in me, we could have built this life together. But you didn't. You walked away when I needed you, and now, I've moved on. Caroline felt her heart shatter. She realized in that moment that she had lost the best thing she had ever had. She had let her impatience and the influence of others ruin a relationship that could have been beautiful. But now, it was too late. There was no going back. With those final words, IK ended what was left of their relationship. Please, don't come around anymore, he said, his voice firm but filled with sadness. It's too late now. Caroline stood there, stunned, unable to comprehend that this was the end. But she knew deep down that it was her fault. She had let go of a man who truly loved her because she had been blinded by the opinions of others. Now, as she walked away from IK's house for the last time, she felt an overwhelming sense of regret.